Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today we are going to discuss development, dynamics and regional marginalization in India. This lecture is a part of your paper, Media and Margins. In order to understand development dynamics and regional marginalization in India, one has to understand India's development model. India's development model has come from a specific kind of understanding of the term development. The development strategy for India has mainly been Nehruvian model of development. The discourse of this particular model is mostly a top-down model and does not take into consideration of people in the margins or the marginalized section. Therefore, to understand the dynamics of India's model of development, one has to understand the discourse of development and the prevailing social hierarchies in the society. In India, the marginalized groups are the people who stand below in the social ladder. This includes scheduled tribes and caste, women, religious minorities, rural poor, manual workers in unorganized sectors, and any group or individuals who do not fit into the Hindu patriarchal imagination of the nation. Therefore, in India, one finds both vertical and horizontal marginalization. The horizontal marginalization being the region-wise, probably mostly in terms of economic disparity within the nation, while vertical marginalization relating to the exclusion based on social hierarchy. And when both the kinds of marginalization gets intertwined with development policies and schemes, disparities increase and entitlements decreases mostly. Let us now try and understand and problematize this situation further. Firstly, let us try and understand the discourse of development. What is development? The word development is probably one of the most loosely used terms. The generic meaning of the word translates itself to improvement, advancement, enhancement, progress, expansion, enlargement, upgradation, change, increase, growth, and maybe even perfection. Why is it that the word development is associated with anything that could be bigger and better? Why the idea of is bigger and better clubbed together as a positive connotation? Do things that are bigger and better always lead to a positive impact? If not, why is it done? What is the power equation behind it? These are the questions that one needs to keep in mind when one has to understand development critically. That is to say that one needs to question and problematize the synonyms of the development. In this context, one has to understand how the concept of need of development was created and how people and nations were rendered under development. It all started in 20th January 1949 with Truman, then President of United States of America's speech. It seemed like America's moral responsibility to develop the underdeveloped. Truman on that very day thus coined the term underdeveloped. Gustavo Esteva argues that on that very day 2 billion people were made underdeveloped and ceased to live their life in their natural way. Everything that was to happen after this saw them from the lens of developed, seeing the underdeveloped. Therefore, now very often when we talk of development, it is understood as a process of improvement of infrastructural facilities. But the question is development only infrastructural advancement? Improvement in infrastructural facilities could mean growth and not necessarily development. Therefore, one has to understand the basic difference between growth and development. Also, increase in infrastructural facilities does not necessarily lead to overall sustainable development of human conditions. And the meaning of the word development itself has changed over the time. The changing meaning of development has thus had its impact on marginalized sections all over the world. So let us define growth and development both. Growth could be understood as growth in terms of numbers, for example, growth in gross domestic product, development on the overall or betterment in social and economic conditions in a sustainable way so that there prevails better human conditions. Meanings of development over time. The table you see on screen would help us understand how the meaning of the word development has always meant different things in different points in time. Along with it, what has changed is how the so-called underdeveloped have perceived themselves. So what does this kind of chaos do to the already marginalized groups, sections and regions in terms to India? We can address this by understanding the relationship between development and marginalization. So what is marginalization? Marginalization is the process of cornering or not letting an individual or a group reach its full potential. Oxford Dictionary of Sociology defines marginalization as a process by which a group or an individual is denied access to important positions and symbols of economic, religious, and political power within any society. In understanding marginalization, one has to therefore understand social exclusion, because social exclusion leads to marginalization. Arjan de Haan defines social exclusion as a rupture of social bonds. Borrowing from European foundation, de Haan argues that social exclusion is the process through which individuals or groups are wholly or partially excluded from full participation in the society within which they live. Social exclusion is defined as the opposite of social integration, mirroring the perceived importance of being part of society, of being included. Relationship between development and marginalization. So what is the relationship between development and marginalization? As we have understood, what development is a highly loaded word and cannot be simply equated with progress or advancement and has to be critically analyzed. Therefore, one has to think that when there is so much confusion around the meaning of a word, how would it react in its interplay with people and societies? What happens when development happens in places which are so diverse and different from the place of origin of the word itself? The answer is the result is anything other than absolute positive, the way in which it is portrayed. The result of development on India and as well as the other colonized countries worldwide has not been smooth. These countries were referred to as underdeveloped and backward and hence had to develop and civilized. Hence, the countries also jumped into the bandwagon to shed its underdevelopedness and become developed. India is no different. At the midnight speech on India's independence, Nehru had called dams as the temple of modern India. It is now clear how much havoc these modern temples have created. The most affected by dams are the people from the marginalized section. Some years later, in the 1990s, liberalization happened and the markers of exclusion deepened. Marginal groups of India. Now let us discuss who are the marginal groups in India. Difference and hierarchy is the hallmark of Indian society, and the foundations to these differences are of caste, class, language, religion, region, tribe, gender, and different historical processes forms the basis of the various categories of the segmentation and stratification. The different marginal groups therefore may be categorized as scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, women, sexual minorities, people with disability. These are the vertical exclusions that exist across the different regions of the country. In addition to it, there is the region-wise marginalization, which appears to be more horizontal in nature. Therefore, if one has to see the worst affected regions with both kinds of marginalization, the tribal belt forms an intriguing example. What is important to note here is the fact that the resource-rich tribal areas, be it the indigenous communities of Northeast India or Central India, are the worst affected by development. The top-down model of development has not worked for the people. The result of this kind of developmental process has been to increase in the dependence of the tribals on the administration. Now we will try to understand the marginalization in tribal regions, emphasizing on the dynamics of development and marginalization of indigenous groups and women. Tribal areas, women and development. During the last 50 years, planning processes in India has not been able to narrow the disparity between the tribal and non-tribal population. It has rather accentuated the dominant relationships and reinforced the unequal exchange between super and subordinate groups. Such inequality is persistent in the economic and social realm. Elwin was critical of the importance given by Nehru to large-scale industrialization. But according to Nehru, technological revolution in India needed maximization of steel production. For instance, Rourkela was a part of this goal. But prior to this establishment of the plan was home to many tribal groups. The Bhumiyas, Munderi were the original inhabitants, while the Oraon, Munda, Kols and Kalthuas had migrated from the adjacent tribal pockets. The tribes suffered mainly in terms of receiving compensation. Many a times, the tribal people did not have land records as they had customary land rights, and the area was so backward that the British did not show any interest in including the area in its mainstream revenue system. Possession of land and payment of rent was done orally. Thus, the tribes could not produce the land ownership's record. R.K. Barik argues that the planning process ignores the social side and ultimately leads to unrest in society. The rehab strategy has been adopted by the Indian planners as an integrated development paradigm for the development of the backward regions, wherein non-tribal refuge will get settled in tribal areas and share development programs with local tribes. But the plan did not succeed as the settlers started to acquire tribal land by illegal means, destroyed the forests to sell timbers in the open market, and accumulated the major means of the local economy by pushing the tribes to more drudgery. The social audit shows a great loss to the tribes, whereas the economic audit confirms a positive contribution to gross domestic product. Development-induced displacement and further resettlement has become a major issue now, but the brunt of it is felt more by the tribal population because in most situations the displaced people are the tribals and they are displaced from their original habitat. As a result of it, the tribal population, more specifically the tribal women than men, suffers a lot. According to Walter Fernandez, it is an attack on the natural resources on which she depends to play her role in the household. The women are more affected than men because women are related to the collection of fuel, fodder and water. The Bhils and the Vasavas were also among the two displaced tribes in the Sardar Sarovar project. The Bhils were of Anjanwara and were the original cultivators, and there were no difference between the land owners and laborers. Moreover, the wealth of the people were determined by the number of cattle people have. People used to help each other in their land, and village exogamy was practiced in order to have stronger ties with other village. Moreover, they lived in the realm of forest and river, which was their provider. So people only stored drinking water, and for every other purpose they went to the river bank. The Vasavas were in the village of Mapali. They were primarily agriculturalists who supplement their forest produce with grain produce. Their economy is mainly subsistence economy, with clothes being the only thing to buy. The Vasavas still consider Mapali as their home, but after the displacement of the people from their native village, the indigenous people faced a lot of problems. They were only given land to stay but not for grazing, so they had to sell their cattle and poultry. Moreover, there were problems in finding alliances for their children, as they were now out seas and could no longer have the life they earlier had. At the same time, it increased the mobility of the men, but the women were confined to their homes, whereas the Vasava women earlier had strong ties with her natal family. So this in a way was also changing the kinship patterns and the social relations. Moreover, the women could not visit their natal homes more frequently, as physical distance worked differently for men and women, and this talks about gendered impact of displacement. Earlier they lived amidst forest and jungles, so it was easier for women to collect fuel, firewood and water, but now women have to travel a lot. So the working conditions of the women have worsened. One of the most important problems of displacement is that the privacy of the women is lost. Earlier, they could defecate in the hills, but in the resettlement areas in the plains, there were no toilets. Moreover, the Vasavas were placed at the bottom of the caste hierarchy. So, with the intersections of caste and gender, women were more marginalized. Thus, such a negative impact on the tribes are clear impacts of the failure of India's development regime. Thus, the developmental projects other than anything else has performed as medium of social exclusion and further marginalizing the tribal population. Thus, the tribes continue to be the most marginalized of all communities, and although there are various special legal provisions for their upliftment, they continue to be deprived. In other words, the rights guaranteed to the tribal population has been grossly violated, leading to social injustice. The tribal people face not only serious socio-economic marginalization but also threat of undermining of their distinctive culture and identity, which in turn is rooted in their livelihood pattern. The tribes, although hold the same citizenship rights and have the same status as any other member of the state, but in terms of enjoyment of these rights, the position of the tribe in comparison to others have been extremely vulnerable. The tribes have suffered mainly due to disadvantages characterized by a combination of economic, political, social and cultural dimension. Tribal rights thus acquire a substantive content to right to socio-economic development as well as preservation of socio-cultural distinctiveness. However, both his substantive rights have come under question under the developmental process adopted by the Indian state, leading to negotiation of the space. Thus, the politics of development and identity is generated. And it is not only the effective social and economic rights that were evolved and extended to the tribes, but also the rights that already had, such as over land and forest, were taken away by the colonial rulers, which were continued during the post-independence period. Dispossession has been mainly done by the official developmental policy in the post-independence period. In fact, the major cause of the tribal displacement and uprooting has been the state itself. The state, which was to bring about equality and do away with social exclusion, has been exclusionary in its policies and programs. Large-scale industrialization, exploitation of mineral resources, construction of dams and power projects have made more tribal people landless, jobless, homeless, and transfer of land from tribes to non-tribes. Development, as we discussed above, is a myth of sorts, because the real development would require communities engaging in self-development, prioritizing their needs, solving their own problems, and raising their own resources to meet their needs. So the developmental agenda has to be such that there is a holistic development of the individuals and the community. Many problems concerning tribal development, like displacement, poverty, elevation, health and disease, land alienation, indebtedness, are in fact resultant of the economy-centric developmental policy. The biggest failure of the modernization model of development policy is that it has disintegrated the symbiotic holism of man, nature and society relationship through its overemphasis on economy, centricism and consumerism, and the result is the alienation and lopsided development. Thus, the center and periphery is the dominant ideology to understand the marginalization of the tribal and the mainstream society in general. Conclusion. Let us now try and summarize what we discussed in the lecture. Development and marginalization has a strange connection. Actually, the kind of development procedure or policy that is strategized creates the difference. If a development policy or a scheme is done without any idea of the ground realities, it will definitely lead to poor results and will not reach its desired aim. However, if a developmental policy is designed keeping in mind the regional varieties, then development policies can be good. Such a kind of developmental policy will not lead to marginalization. Also, the development policies need to be inclusive in every sense of the term. Then, only a positive correlation can be found between development and marginalization. Do attempt the question in the self-evaluate quadrant. For further reading suggestions, please refer to the third quadrant. Thank you.